Heartbreak, the word itself, carries the weight of emotions we've all felt at some point in our lives. It is a raw, universal experience that leaves us questioning, hurting, and searching for answers. But what if I told you that this pain, as unbearable as it seems, holds the potential to transform you? On Buddha's Odyssey, we'll unravel the layers of heartbreak not just as a source of suffering, but as a gateway to profound self-discovery. Together, we'll explore the wisdom of the Buddha, uncover practical steps for healing, and dive into timeless lessons about impermanence and compassion. So, take a deep breath, and let's walk this path together toward clarity, resilience, and a stronger heart. Number 1. The emotional and philosophical impact of heartbreak. Heartbreak serves as one of the most profound emotional experiences a person can endure. It strips away the illusion of permanence and forces us to confront the fragility of our attachments. Often, the pain of a broken heart is amplified by our inability to accept change or the impermanence of relationships. In moments of despair, we are consumed by thoughts of what could have been or what we have lost. This clinging to the past is deeply rooted in attachment as central cause of suffering as taught by the Buddha. The idea is not to reject relationships or love, but to shift our perspective toward a healthier, more mindful approach. The Buddha's teachings on impermanence, anicca, highlight the transient nature of all things. Just as the seasons change and rivers flow, so too do our lives and connections evolve. This impermanence is not a source of sorrow but a reminder of the preciousness of every moment. When we cling to relationships as though they are unchanging or eternal, we set ourselves up for disappointment and grief. By embracing impermanence, we can learn to love freely and fully without the chains of possessiveness or fear of loss. This is the distinction between attachment and genuine love. Attachment binds us, it demands reciprocity and conditions our happiness on external factors. Genuine love, however, is liberating. It seeks the well-being of others without expectation. Furthermore, the concept of suffering, dukkha, extends beyond physical pain. It encompasses the emotional and psychological turmoil that arises from our resistance to reality. When a relationship ends, it is natural to feel sorrow, but prolonged suffering often stems from our refusal to accept the situation. For example, instead of acknowledging that a partner's feelings have changed or that circumstances have led to separation, we dwell on the injustice of it all. This resistance only deepens our pain. By practicing mindfulness and reflecting on the Buddha's teachings, we can train our minds to respond with equanimity rather than despair. Non-self, anatta, the third universal truth, invites us to explore the idea that the self is not a fixed entity but a collection of ever-changing experiences, thoughts, and emotions. When we identify too strongly with a relationship or define our worth through another person, heartbreak can feel like the loss of a part of ourselves. We might think, "I am nothing without them," or "they were my other half." These thoughts reinforce a false sense of self that is tied to external validation. By understanding anatta, we can begin to let go of these limiting beliefs and recognize that our value and identity are not dependent on anyone else. Heartbreak also challenges us to examine our expectations of love. In Western culture, love is often idealized as a fairy tale, permanent, all-consuming, and flawless. This portrayal creates unrealistic standards that can leave us disillusioned when reality does not match our fantasies. Buddhism, on the other hand, encourages us to approach love with mindfulness and compassion. Instead of viewing love as something to be possessed or controlled, we are called to nurture it with kindness, patience, and humility. This perspective allows us to experience love as a dynamic, ever-evolving force rather than a fixed destination. Take, for example, the story of Kisagotami from the Buddhist scriptures. After losing her only child, Kisagotami was consumed by grief and searched desperately for a way to bring her son back to life. The Buddha, in his wisdom, instructed her to collect mustard seeds from a household that had never experienced death. As she went door to door, she discovered that every family had suffered loss in some form. Through this experience, she realized that suffering is universal and that clinging to what is impermanent only deepens our pain. This story teaches us the importance of acceptance and the futility of resisting the natural flow of life. In modern times, the teachings of anicca, dukkha, and anatta remain profoundly relevant. Heartbreak, though deeply personal, is a shared human experience that can connect us to others in unexpected ways. By reflecting on the impermanence of life and a non-self, we can begin to let go of the ego-driven narratives that fuel our suffering. This does not mean suppressing emotions or denying the pain of loss. On the contrary, it is an invitation to sit with our emotions, observe them without judgment, and allow them to pass naturally. Number 2. Practical steps to heal your heart. Healing from heartbreak requires a combination of self-compassion, mindfulness, and intentional actions. It is a deeply personal journey, yet certain universal steps can guide us toward emotional recovery. These steps are not about avoiding pain but about facing it with courage, understanding, and a willingness to transform suffering into wisdom. Let us explore these practical approaches in depth. Step 1. Allow yourself to grieve. The first step toward healing is to embrace the reality of your emotions. Grief is a natural response to loss, and denying or suppressing it only postpones the healing process. In many cultures, particularly among men, there is an ingrained belief that emotional vulnerability is a sign of weakness. However, true strength lies in the ability to confront pain and allow oneself to feel it fully. Tears, often viewed as a weakness, are in fact a vital release mechanism. They cleanse the soul, wash away emotional toxins, and create space for acceptance. Find a private, comfortable environment to process your emotions, a quiet corner of your home, a secluded spot in nature, or the pages of a journal. Writing about your feelings can be particularly therapeutic, offering a way to articulate thoughts that may feel overwhelming when unspoken. Step 2. Seek support wisely. The path to emotional recovery is not one to walk alone. Reaching out for support is not only a sign of strength but also a crucial element of healing. However, the choice of whom to confide in is equally important. The person you choose should offer empathy, a listening ear, and a non-judgmental presence. This could be a parent, a close friend, a mentor, or even a spiritual teacher. Be mindful of avoiding individuals who may inadvertently deepen your pain by encouraging anger or resentment toward the person who hurt you. Genuine support comes from those who help you process your emotions constructively, not from those who fuel negativity. Sharing your feelings lightens the emotional load, helps clarify your thoughts, and reminds you that you are not alone in your suffering. Step 3. Reflect on impermanence. The Buddhist teaching on impermanence, anicca, is a powerful tool for navigating heartbreak. It reminds us that nothing in life, neither joy nor sorrow, is permanent. While this truth may initially feel disheartening, it is ultimately liberating. It teaches us that the pain we feel today will not last forever, it will transform and fade over time. Consider the metaphor of a storm. In the midst of a thunderstorm, the sky may seem permanently dark and ominous. Yet we know that storms pass, and the sun will eventually shine again. Similarly, the anguish of heartbreak, no matter how consuming, will not persist indefinitely. Use this time to reflect on how impermanence also brings new beginnings and possibilities. Pain, when embraced mindfully, can be a teacher, showing us the beauty of life's fleeting nature and the opportunities it presents for growth. Step 4. Cultivate loving kindness, metta. Practicing loving kindness, or metta, is an essential Buddhist practice for healing the heart. It involves generating positive thoughts and intentions for yourself and others, including those who have hurt you. Begin by focusing on yourself. Repeat affirmations such as, "May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May I find peace." This self-compassion lays the foundation for emotional resilience. Once you have cultivated kindness toward yourself, extend it outward. This includes the person who caused your heartbreak. While this may seem counterintuitive, harboring resentment only deepens your suffering. By wishing them well, you free yourself from the burden of anger and bitterness. Loving kindness does not mean condoning harmful actions. Rather, it is about releasing the grip of negative emotions and fostering inner peace. Step 5. Redirect your focus. After a heartbreak, the mind often becomes fixated on memories of the past, what was said, what went wrong, and what might have been. While reflection can be a part of the healing process, excessive rumination traps us in a loop of sorrow and regret. To break free, it is essential to redirect your focus. Engage in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. This could be as simple as taking up a new hobby, exploring mindfulness practices, or volunteering to help others. Redirecting your energy toward positive pursuits not only provides a distraction from the pain but also renews your sense of purpose. For example, immersing yourself in creative outlets such as painting, writing, or playing music can act as a form of emotional expression. Similarly, acts of service, like volunteering at a shelter or helping a friend in need, remind you of your capacity to make a difference in the world, even in the midst of personal struggle. These practical steps are interconnected, forming a holistic approach to healing. By allowing yourself to grieve, seeking compassionate support, reflecting on impermanence, cultivating loving kindness, and redirecting your focus, you create a pathway to recovery. Heartbreak is not a sign of weakness but an opportunity to deepen your understanding of yourself and the nature of life. Number 3. Personal insights and stories. Let me share a story with you about Arya, a young woman who, like many of us, found herself in the throes of heartbreak after a devastating breakup. Arya's story serves as a testament to the transformative power of mindfulness and compassion, illustrating how even the deepest pain can pave the way for growth and healing. For months after her breakup, Arya was overwhelmed by grief. Her days were consumed with replaying every moment of her relationship, scrutinizing her actions, and questioning where she had gone wrong. She carried the weight of self-doubt and regret, convinced that her heartbreak was a permanent scar on her life. This cycle of pain seemed endless until she confided in a mentor, someone who gently guided her toward a different perspective. The mentor, understanding the depth of her sorrow, introduced Arya to the practice of mindfulness and the teachings of impermanence. At first, Arya was skeptical. Sitting still and observing her breath felt like an insignificant act in the face of her immense emotional turmoil. But with encouragement, she decided to try. Each morning, she carved out a few minutes of quiet time, closing her eyes and focusing on the simple rhythm of her breath. As she practiced, her mentor encouraged her to reflect on the impermanence of all things: her emotions, her pain, and even her memories. Initially, the practice was challenging. The memories of her relationship felt vivid and all-consuming, and sitting with those emotions seemed unbearable. However, as days turned into weeks, something began to shift. Arya noticed that the emotions she had believed to be permanent began to ebb and flow. The memories that once caused her to break down in tears started to lose their sharp edge. She realized that heartbreak, like everything else in life, was a transient experience. It was a profound moment of clarity. The pain she felt was not an eternal state but a passing storm. This realization sparked a transformation. Inspired by the compassion she had cultivated for herself during her meditation practice, Arya decided to extend that compassion outward. She began volunteering at a local shelter, offering her time and energy to those in need. At the shelter, She encountered people who were facing their own struggles, often far greater than her own. These interactions shifted her perspective. She saw that pain and loss were universal experiences and that her own heartbreak was part of a shared human journey. Volunteering became a source of healing for Arya. It gave her a sense of purpose and a way to channel her energy into something positive. In helping others, she discovered that she was also helping herself. Her focus shifted from dwelling on the past to embracing the present moment and the opportunities it offered. The act of giving, whether through a kind word or a helping hand, became a reminder of her own resilience and capacity for love. Over time, Arya's heartbreak transformed. It didn't vanish completely. Memories still surfaced occasionally, and moments of sadness lingered. But these feelings no longer controlled her. Instead, they became a gentle reminder of the lessons her relationship had taught her, the importance of cherishing moments of connection, the inevitability of change, and the strength found in letting go. Arya's journey is a reflection of the Buddhist teachings on impermanence and compassion. Her story illustrates that healing is not about erasing pain but about allowing it to flow through us and transform into wisdom. Mindfulness provided her with the tools to observe her emotions without judgment, while compassion both for herself and others allowed her to find meaning in her suffering. Her story resonates because it is universal. We all face heartbreak at some point in our lives, and in those moments, it can feel like the pain will never end. But as Arya discovered, pain is not a permanent state. Through mindfulness, self-compassion, and a willingness to extend kindness to others, we can navigate even the darkest times and emerge stronger, wiser, and more connected to the world around us. Number 4. Philosophical lessons from the Buddha. Heartbreak, while deeply painful, is a profound opportunity for introspection and spiritual growth. It serves as a reminder of the Buddha's core teachings on the nature of suffering and the path to liberation. The Four Noble Truths, central to Buddhist philosophy, offer a framework for understanding and transforming the pain of heartbreak into a source of wisdom and resilience. The first noble truth, suffering is an inevitable part of life, dukkha, teaches us that pain, loss, and hardship are integral to the human experience. Heartbreak is not unique to any one individual. It is a universal phenomenon that touches everyone at some point. Recognizing this truth allows us to release the notion that our suffering is a sign of personal failure. Instead, we begin to understand that it is part of life's natural rhythm, a shared experience that connects us with others. The second noble truth reveals the cause of suffering, attachment and craving, tanha. In the context of heartbreak, this attachment often manifests as clinging to the idea of permanence in relationships or an unwillingness to accept change. When a relationship ends, we grieve not only for the loss of the person but also for the dreams, expectations, and identity we build around that connection. The craving for things to remain unchanged is a root cause of our anguish. By acknowledging this truth, we can begin to disentangle ourselves from the mental constructs that deepen our suffering. The third noble truth offers hope. There is an end to suffering, nirvana. While the pain of heartbreak may feel insurmountable, the Buddha assures us that liberation is possible. This cessation of suffering does not mean erasing the pain or forgetting the relationship, but rather transforming our perspective. Through mindfulness and self-awareness, we can release our attachment to the past and find peace in the present. This process requires patience and effort, but it is achievable with practice and intention. The fourth noble truth outlines the Eightfold Path, a practical guide to overcoming suffering. For those navigating heartbreak, two aspects of the path stand out as particularly relevant: mindfulness, sati, and right effort, samavima. Mindfulness encourages us to remain present with our emotions, observing them without judgment or resistance. Instead of pushing away pain or becoming consumed by it, mindfulness allows us to acknowledge our feelings and let them flow naturally. For example, when feelings of sadness arise, Rather than suppressing them or amplifying them through rumination, we can simply notice their presence. This is sadness. It will pass. Right effort, on the other hand, involves the cultivation of positive mental states while letting go of unwholesome ones. In the context of heartbreak, this means intentionally redirecting our energy toward actions and thoughts that support healing and growth. For instance, rather than dwelling on thoughts of blame or regret, we can focus on acts of self-care, kindness toward others, and meaningful pursuits. This effort is not about forcing ourselves to move on quickly but about creating an environment both internally and externally that fosters recovery. Heartbreak also provides an opportunity to practice equanimity, upekha, a quality of calm and balance in the face of life's ups and downs. Equanimity reminds us that all experiences, whether pleasurable or painful, are impermanent. By cultivating this state of mind, we can approach heartbreak with a sense of acceptance and resilience, recognizing that it is a temporary chapter in our journey. Consider the analogy of a lotus flower, a symbol often used in Buddhist teachings. The lotus grows in muddy water, yet it emerges unsoiled and beautiful. Similarly, heartbreak may feel like wading through murky waters, but it is through this experience that we can rise above and blossom into a stronger, wiser version of ourselves. The mud represents the challenges and suffering of life, while the lotus symbolizes the clarity and peace that arise from facing those challenges with courage and mindfulness. Moreover, the Eightfold Path encourages us to approach heartbreak as a teacher rather than an enemy. By practicing right intention, sammasankappa, we can cultivate an attitude of compassion, both for ourselves and for the person who caused us pain. This does not mean condoning harmful actions but recognizing that everyone is navigating their own struggles and limitations. Compassion allows us to release resentment and find freedom from the emotional weight of anger and bitterness. The philosophical lessons from the Buddha remind us that heartbreak, while difficult, is not an end but a beginning. It is an invitation to examine the roots of our suffering, to practice mindfulness and compassion, and to walk the path toward liberation. Each moment of pain is an opportunity to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the nature of life. Through this process, we discover that heartbreak is not a permanent wound but a stepping stone on the path to greater clarity, strength, and peace. As we bring this journey to a close, I invite you to reflect. Heartbreak, though painful, is not your final destination. It is a bridge, carrying you from one chapter of your life to the next, with lessons only this experience can teach. In the Buddha's words, pain is certain, suffering is optional. Embrace this moment as an opportunity to grow, to love yourself more deeply, and to move forward with renewed strength. Let the cracks in your heart be where the light shines through, illuminating your path to peace and purpose. Thank you for joining me today on Buddha's Odyssey. Remember, healing is a process, and you are never alone. Until next time, may you find peace, strength, and joy on your journey.